So I'm sitting here, and I'm always fooling with my settings. So I'm sitting here, and I've done a lot of work with my 528, and I've done a lot of work with my roadcaster. And I'm always kind of fiddling and going back and forth with settings and things, and I'm always just thinking up stuff to say, okay, let me change that a little bit, and kind of make it a little bit better. So I came in here and I started fiddling with my rollcaster a little bit more, and I kind of figured something out. I kind of figured out that uh, the noise gate on the rollcaster, um, if you set it around, I guess 22 decibels, and you turn your hysteris all the way up, it creates this big gap where you have time between the words that you're saying. You have time, and it gives you room to cut out all of the background noise, just like an expander would. So I found that out. So that's really good. Um, and I'm just testing out the sound just to kind of see uh, how it will, how it sounds. I'll process it and upload it, and uh, and then kind of see how it sounds and everything, and see what I think about it. You know, it all depends. I might use it because I like the sound. I like the rich warm sound, and I kind of got my 528 set up the same way, but that was one of the reasons I bought my 528, because this rollcaster is so hard to get your settings right for your voice and the background noise and your environment. It's so hard to get that thing dialed in. So that was why I bought the 528, which is good. That's an analog processor. That's dialed in too, so I can kind of go back and forth if I want. But but we'll see how this rollcaster, how that reacts. Because I also took my uh, high pass filter on the rollcaster, and I cut it up to 100, because the rollcaster is a little bit more. Rollcaster is a little bit more deeper and richer. So it to me it needs more. It needs more of the high pass filter. So then you get kind of a uh I guess a bit of a uh I would think you get a bit of uh a less muddy kind of voice. So I mean that does help. It really does. So I'm not going to knock it for what it is. It is a great piece of equipment that you really have to learn how to use. Um, but like I said, I've dove into podcasting pretty deep. Um, with microphones, with the mixer, with the my analog processor, with you know even XLR cords and DAWs and plugins and just all kinds of stuff. It's really a kind of an awakening thing. Podcasting is it's something that takes dedication, because it takes years for a podcast to take off. So you have to be I guess you have to be diligent at it, and it has to be something that you really want, and one thing about it, if we're all jealous of somebody that's doing better than us, but let's get that out the way. But the thing is, you have to decide whether you want to turn that kind of jealousy into motivation, or if you want to sit up and be mad at the person because they're doing better than you. Me, myself, I can admit at one time, I was a hater at one time. But I turned the whole thing around and started working on myself instead of, stupidly being mad at other people because of, what they were doing, whatever it may be. Once I started doing that, then I started having a much better appreciation for people that are doing things, and I really wanted to be part of that environment, of people who are working hard and getting things done and making moves and all this kind of stuff. No matter how small the movement is, growth is growth. Growth is any type of movement that you do. What I'm saying? Growth is finally starting to dust off that treadmill and start doing some movement on it. That's movement because you're in a better place today than you were yesterday. And as long as you keep that movement going, however slow it is, as long as you keep that movement going, then that's a win. To me, that is a win because you're further than the person who didn't make that move. You're further than the person who's still thinking about doing something. You're further than the person who's afraid to try something. You're further than the person who wanted to make that move. So that's just the way you look at it. And it's really not, you really don't look at it as, hey, I'm better than this person or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. You look at it as you're so focused on yourself that you don't see other people and what they're doing or care because you have enough on your plate. Your plate is overflowing with stuff, and you're just going from thought to thought to thought to thought and moving from this to that to this to that to this to that, and you just don't have time to be concerned with what anybody else is doing. And that to me right there is very impressive because you find yourself completely focused on you and what you're doing and not everybody else, and you don't even really care. You're not jealous, you're not mad, because you're focused on you and what you're doing and what you're accomplishing, and the movement that you're making. And that's that's kind of the mindset that I'm in right now, and it's definitely a good place to be in. Definitely a good place to be in.